When we think of Lovecraft, we often think of Cthulhu, his most infamous creation, and yes, while he is quite memorable, he is by no means the most powerful monster in the Cthulhu Mythos. So today on Top 5 Scary Videos, I'm going to be counting down our list of the top 5 scary Lovecraftian monsters part 2. Before we begin though, be sure to stick around until the end of the video where I'll be responding to some of your comments. And with that, let's jump in. Coming in at number 5 we have Ghast. Ghasts are humanoid creatures who hail from the work of H.P Lovecraft. They are said to dwell in the vaults of Zin, where they are often hunted by the Gugs. Gugs are a terrifying species featured in the Dream Quest of Unknown Kadath. They are large, black-furred beasts with vertically opening fanged jaws. Their two eyes protrude from the side of their head, and their limbs terminate into two paws each. They are also worshippers of the Great Ones, the gods of Earth who reside in Kadath. Anyway though, back to Ghasts. Ghast's language appears to consist of coughing gutturals. They also seem to travel in packs, as Randolph Carter meets a group of 15, and together they seemingly manage to take down a Gug. To quote H.P Lovecraft in the Dream Quest of Unknown Kadath, the Ghasts, those repulsive beings which die in the light, and which live in the vaults of Zin and leap on long hind legs like kangaroos. After a moment, something about the size of a small horse hopped out into the grey twilight, and Carter turned sick at the aspect of that scabrous and unwholesome beast, whose face is so curiously human despite the absence of a nose, a forehead, and other important particulars. In at number 4 we have Kasogtha. Kasogtha is the bride of Cthulhu and the Leviathan of disease. However, what makes this monster so interesting is the fact that not only is she Cthulhu's second bride, but she is also his sister, who bore him the twin daughters Noctosa and Noctolu, who vaguely resemble their stepsister Cthulhu. Kasogtha appears as a huge mass of writhing, coiled tentacles, which are capable of extending to astonishing lengths, in turn ensuring that her prey has no chance of escape or concealment. She is known to poison the water she inhabits, hence her name, the Leviathan of Disease. She is typically regarded as a lesser old one, however, she is said to be particularly violent to the point that even the great Cthulhu struggled against her to prove his strength in order for the mating to proceed. Coming in at number 3 we have Night Gaunts. There is very little stated about Night Gaunts, but they are a race of creatures which appears throughout the Lovecraft mythos. Described as spindly black humanoids, Night Gaunts have a tough leathery skin, inward curving horns, a whip-like tail with a barbed tip, vicious talons which they use to tickle their victims into submission, and large bat-like wings. They are said to be completely silent, emitting no noise and making not a sound, not even in motion. To quote H.P Lovecraft in the Dream Quest of Unknown Kadath, but Carter preferred to look at them as his captors, which were indeed shocking and uncouth black things with smooth, oily, whale-like surfaces, unpleasant horns that curved inward toward each other, bat wings whose beating made no sound, ugly prehensile paws, and barbed tails that lashed needlessly and disquietingly. And worst of all, they never spoke or laughed and never smiled, because they had no faces at all to smile with, but only a suggestive blackness where a face ought to be. All they ever did was clutch and fly and tickle. That was the way of Night Gaunts. Now these monsters are known to haunt various locations across the cosmos. Some serve the elder god Nodens, the lord of the great abyss, others suckle at the breasts of the outer god Yggdrasil and do her dark bidding, while others still guard the vast extinct volcano Negranic deep in the Dreamlands, where they are sometimes mounted and ridden by the ghouls that inhabit that cursed place. More interesting still, these monsters were actually inspired by nightmares Lovecraft had in his youth. Coming in at number 2 we have Shoguth. Also known as Shoguths, these are creatures hailing from the Cthulhu Mythos. They are enormous beings who measure around 15 feet across if they were to form their bodies into a sphere. They are strange creatures composed of a malleable protoplasm akin to a colossal amoeba. While their typical state is a writhing mass of eyes, mouths, and wriggling tentacles, they are capable of forming whatever organs or appendages they require for the task at hand. H.P Lovecraft describes these monsters in At the Mountains of Madness, stating, I quote, "Formless protoplasm able to mock and reflect all forms and organs and processes, viscous agglutinations of bubbling cells, rubbery 15-foot spheroids infinitely plastic and ductile, slaves of suggestion, builders of city, more and more sullen, more and more intelligent, intelligent, more and more amphibious, more and more imitative. Great God, what madness made even those blasphemous old ones willing to use and carve such things. Originally, these creatures were genetically engineered by the Elder Things as a race of servant tools, but eventually rose up against their masters and drove them to extinction. Though rare, some Shoguths have managed to survive in the modern era, particularly in Antarctica and in the deepest parts of the world's oceans. The Deep Ones are also known to ally with or make use of Shoguths, sometimes referred to as sea Shoguths. And finally, coming in at number 1, we have Degen. Degen is a deity who presides over the Deep Ones, an amphibious humanoid race indigenous to Earth's oceans. Degen is an enormous monster that has been mentioned in various texts since ancient times. He is worshipped as a deity by a devout cult of humans and Deep Ones, and is supposedly immortal, with his longevity being attributed to his fraternization with the Starspawn, who was said to select formidable specimens from a given species to protect, nurture, and empower for reasons known only to them. He is said to be grotesque in appearance and over 50 feet tall, with a fish-like face, flapping gills, and a scaled, slimy hide. Along with his consort, Mother Hydra, and Great Cthulhu himself, he is a member of the Deep One's Holy Trinity, the trio of beings worshipped as gods by the oceanic species. On top of that, it is said that Cthulhu entrusts the guardianship of his daughter Cthulhu to Degen and Mother Hydra, and the pair are thought to hold watch over her in one of the great underwater cities somewhere in the North Atlantic. Degen was one of the targets of the Wilmarth Foundation's Project X in early 1980, with the objective of the operation being to annihilate Father Degen, Mother Hydra, and Cthulhu, but was ultimately unsuccessful, and the three were able to escape safely. Well, there we have it. Do you guys agree with our list? Were there any Lovecraftian monsters that we missed? Leave us your thoughts and feelings in the comments down below, and perhaps we can do a part 3. Before I go though, I just want to respond to a few comments from part 1 of this list. Helen Church said, "I finally get a video early enough that the comment section isn't polluted and I've run out of things to say. Hi Lucy." Hello Helen. Congrats on getting there early. Well done. Right Bland said, "Lucy saying that she didn't know she said hard to swallow so much as well." Hard to swallow. There was a lot of comments like this, commenting on me saying hard to swallow. You guys just don't let it go, do you? You really hold on to things. You really need to learn to move on. Some things are just hard to swallow. Joel Bethke said, "The people who dislike this video will incur the wrath of Cthulhu." They certainly will. The wrath of Cthulhu and the wrath of me. I don't know what's worse. Probably me. Derek Casagrande said, "Honestly never thought I'd hit a point that Lovecraft's material was a comfy diversion for a few minutes, but such is life these days. It helps when it is presented by the Queen. Thank you for the constant content. You're making life in the US a bit more bearable. Cheers." You're very welcome. I'm sorry that life is so difficult right now. It's hard for everyone. And I can't imagine living in the States right now. Michael Horton said, "In a cult of Lucy, I'd be a high priest. Long live Queen Lucy." I mean, if you want to start the cult, by all means, I'm not going to stop you, but it'll be one member and it'll be yourself. BlueDog79 said, "Lucy has a habit of saying a phrase over and over again. I find that hard to swallow." You know what? Perhaps I do. I become a fan of certain words and certain terms, and I like to repeat it a lot. Hard to swallow is what I'm into right now. Get with it. You know what? I didn't say hard to swallow once in this list, only in the comments, so just cut me some slack. And on that note, if you haven't already, be sure to give this video a big thumbs up, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss another scary vid. And until next time, I'll see you later. There's a fly in here.
I see it.
You see it?
Yeah, it's on YouTube.
I see it.